Okay, I'm coming. I'm coming. Oh, right. Okay. So, kind of wanted to do a video. It's still just going to be this kind of talking head, poor quality thing. Keep wanting to really do something fancier, but it's so easy just to do these talking heads. Try to get some information out. This time, I'm going through and it's back in with the MicroStock area. And I've been doing it for, sorry about that, I've been doing it now for about 9 months. And in that process of both getting things online and then trying to learn about what it's all about. And in particular, see what kind of money realistically can you make if you're not shooting super major stuff. So I've got some takeaways that I kind of have learned now, I think are true, and so I thought I would just go through those points. So first one, I've been kind of focused on the categories, and categories do matter. That if you're in a strong category doing the main subject as opposed to a subsection of it, which is still better, that's where most of the money is going to lie. So for me, as an example, I'm under the fashion category, under fashion accessories, and I specialize in jewelry and gemstone photography. So I'm kind of down at, yeah, it is kind of a fairly major category, not as strong as business or sports or something like that. But then I'm a couple ranks down into it. But it does allow for sales around the world that I'm getting. So gone through the process a number of times now, uploading images and then seeing what happens with them. Now I've seen other people in researching this that are into a stronger category. So they got about the same number of images or so that I do, similar kind of backgrounds in some ways. I mean, so they're just not real beginners. Some of these people have been actually shooting for a number of years, or now have been doing it for doing stock and stuff for several years. And the ones that I thought were kind of comparable to the level I was at, they're all doing better than I am. But one is doing babies and families. Okay, big strong category, and a lot of video on that. Other one is a guy who's doing sports, and he's doing well with that. And he's retired, basically a professional, but out of military. Another one is really focused on in medicine, which is a very strong category. Has a real in because he's a doctor, and so you may have seen his videos with the teaching doc. So ones that are not so comparable are people that are doing scenics. And again, the one guy I've been watching, Photoloo, has been doing it for years and has a portfolio of really strong scenic images and of very good locations. And another one doing travel, and in his case, a little more comparable on getting started and stuff, and just doing it kind of as a part-time. But again, travel's a good strong category to be in. Other ones are in kind of fashion lifestyle, and they come from a strong photo background. Another one's in really news, like Washington, D.C. news, and so they've been doing better with that. So there's some good people to kind of follow to see what they're doing out there. But they're in categories which are, pretty solid to work in. Okay, next one is, can you shoot anything? It is surprising what will sell. And I've been surprised even with my stuff, what is sold, and seen what others have been selling. But it still remains you'll do better if you're in a high demand category and that you're shooting for that category. But you really never know what's going to sell because we don't have a perfect vision of what everybody out there is going to need an image for. And we're now tapping the world with this stuff, and there's a diverse amount of interest on things. But still remains in solid categories, you're going to do better. Other thing I ran into is property releases. Some stock sites vary on what they're doing property releases. I found out. I was surprised on this. Some types of photos, yeah, you really must have a property release or a model release on it. It's just not going to fly because it's very identifiable property. You want to show ownerships, or if it's case with a model. I've always gotten model releases when I worked with that. Years ago, it's still floating around. I had modelingadvice.com. In early days, I was working with some modeling schools, and we just pretty well knew you had to get model releases done. The difference is, model releases I got years ago, because now they require a witness, they won't accept now. So those people are all grown up and have kids and maybe retired and gone by now, but I can't use those images because of the new requirements they have for the photo releases on it. Other ones, it's kind of weird because there's some things that really don't, they're not a property that's going to be identifiable. If you're doing a strand of pearls, white pearls, there's a gazillion strands of white pearls out there. Who's to say which white pearls these are? One company, or actually two companies, go through and say, fine, it's not there. Other one says, nope, you got to have a proper release for everything. You put anything in there that you identify as some kind of property, you got to have a release for it. Requirement is just absurd on it, so I just kind of forget that crap. Other question is quantity versus quality. And is it better to have greater quantity of images versus quality of images? And the answer is yes. You have to have, if you want to make some money on this, you have to have a lot of really good quality images that are in a demand category, that have uniqueness of the image, and they will do better. Things that are poor quality, first want to get past the inspection process with the top agencies like Shutterstock and Adobe. And then the image creativity and quality there then is what's going to carry it through if it's in a good category. So you kind of need both. If people say just shoot everything, shoot actually Shutterstock is now rejecting a number of times I'm shooting one kind of thing and I change, like I have blue bows in something, and then next time I have red bows in it. And they'll say, nope, this is too much duplication on it. It's like, well, some people have a color scheme for yellow, and some people have this color scheme for blue, and some people for red. Maybe you need different bows. Nope, you've got, it's basically the same strand of pearls. Nope, just, we got the blue ones, that's plenty. We don't need any more. So the idea of doing multiples now, there used to be horizontal, verticals, things like that. That's actually getting rejected by some of the companies. So doing all these huge multiples of things, those days are already gone. They want to have fewer, you edit down to pick really your best shot that really tells the story, and just give us that one. That's all we want now. How many photos are needed? Excuse me again. Question is, should be how much you want to make. And we also have to look at a difference between stock and MicroStock. Stock agencies are still out there, and they're still working in the same model. And they're going to be very, very juried, very hard to get into. And they're going to be charging more money. People working at those are really the top line still doing things. MicroStock is the one that's kind of free and open for everybody to get into. And so that, we're looking at different, the game for playing, doing MicroStock. And as an example, I made a few sales with Adobe with about 100 images up. And again, I got kind of stymied by, actually it's less than 100 images by their property leases that they required. And so I made a few sales with 50, 70 or so images on that. But more solidly, as an example, I've got 400 in my category on Shutterstock, and it's starting to run about $12 a month that I'm making on those. So there's my experience with the stock on it. If you're looking to make a living wage at this, then you're going to need 10,000 images in a main category like business to start making a living at doing this. The idea you're just going to have 20, 30 images up, you won't even get noticed, won't even get picked up for that. Now that's different if you got 20 images of some really hot news topic going on. Then you may just want to go right maybe to the wire services, which I think the Associated Press, I think Shutterstock is actually handling their news stuff now. So you may end up back on that, but you'd have to do more investigation. So some things you could have a few images that are really priceless, and those would be different. But for the average person, yeah, I kind of started seeing the thing, and I'll have a thing down here running the numbers for you on the notion on that. Okay, videos versus photos. Generally, videos pay out higher, but the demand is lower. Photos pay out in pennies, but high demand on it. I have weak videos, just kind of playing in that categories, and I've had mostly on Shutterstock, less than 100 of them, and I've had no sales at all. But I've had made some sales in still images of all types, not only in my main category, but also in tourist area and kind of playing with some concept stuff. Still images, there's just a bigger demand for that, but you're only making 25 cents on things, so it's, you know. Other things you can make 10, 20, even much higher on the video part. How much can you make? Most amount of investment you put into it kind of equals the return. And if you correctly invest, you'll get a bigger return. If you invest a little bit and it's incorrectly, then you'll get very little or no return at all. So basically, if you go out there and shoot 10,000, high-level professional photos of business, and everything is just perfect, all releases, the whole thing, you got ethnic diversity, the whole bit on it, then you're going to be getting better sales on those, but that's a big investment to get that. And to look at the math, there's one example I saw in Adobe of a company that they kind of featured saying, well, these people have had a lifetime of sales of 250,000 sales over the lifetime that they've been working with Adobe. Now I'm kind of translating this over to Shutterstock, which pays a little bit less on it, but so Shutterstock, I think, up at the highest level which these people would be at. And again, they had over 10,000 images in there, and they're all in business, and they're all perfect professional shots. So Shutterstock's going to pay me like 89 cents. And most of your sales happen in the kind of the general subscription area, and so I'm kind of taking low look on numbers on this. But if you take 250,000 and 89 cents, you're going to get 222,500. So that's over the lifetime that they've been doing things. So I take kind of a short life period, because they may have been doing this for 10 years. But I look at 6-year life. So over 6 years, they would have been grossing about 37,000 a year working with Shutterstock. And again, these are kind of looking at your low numbers on it. And that would be gross. So you look at that, and that's before you start taking out your expenses for all the models or for all the sundries that can go into a shoot like that, where you may have to do wardrobe things. You may have to have a stylist on site to make sure everybody's hair and everything is done correctly. You start getting a lot of additional expenses that can come into that. So what are you going to make? Like you make minimum wage on that. Now again, if you have it in a couple of major ones, and each one is doing that, then you might make some money on it. You might actually make a living at it. But that's going to be like so rare for somebody to do that. And this isn't for beginners. This is for serious pros. I understand there's like a place down in South Africa where they've got a big studio group set up, and they're out there shooting this professionally all the time for the stock agencies. And so you're up against, a kind of a little corporate entity that's basically feeding these companies with these images. And you're kind of coming in, like I'm coming in just this little small guy. It's, see what happens. And I'm just not going to be able to compete against those kind of images. So most of the people kind of doing this, they're already shooting something else, and they're looking to make enough money to pay for some camera gear, or maybe have a few more days travel. The best I've seen or heard about that's something on YouTube has up like 6,000-7,000 images, and it's in some very strong news categories, and they're able to pay their monthly rent with it for like a 1-bedroom apartment, which is the best I've heard of anybody doing it. Different. I know a couple guys I kind of look at online. They're doing travel photography, but they're not selling to MicroStock. They're selling to stock agencies, and they're set up with stock agencies. Again, a whole other beast than doing MicroStock. Search words important. Are the search words important? And got one side that is yes. I've seen some where they gave examples of how the search words have played in with their videos or images, and it's very much how people have found them. Shutterstock shows you a way to see how search words relate to particular images. So I think the search word should be important in this kind of format. But on the other hand, I would say no, they're not important, because for me personally, in looking at it, 95% of my images have no search words applied to them. So I don't know how they're finding the things, if they're just flipping through or whatever, but they're not tied in with a search word that Shutterstock would be reporting with it. So next one I got, so I don't know, there's a lot of people say you got to put a lot of time in the search words. I guess my conclusion on that is put time in the search words. Yeah, I mean, but maybe not. There's some of these automated things, maybe they do fine. I still kind of go through and set up and personalize my search words. I did a certain amount of training with search optimization for websites, and I still kind of go back to working with that idea. And this is working with another database, the same kind of thing. So I try to apply SEO to it to get it to work. And obviously, in my case, so far, it's not showing it's making any difference at all, which doesn't make sense. So good info on how to do MicroStock out there. Yeah, there's actually a number of YouTube channels which I've been learning from, getting answers from people that have been very helpful. Haven't done as much just doing web searches on things, just going to general websites. Been mostly staying with YouTube. I like watching the YouTube things, but I've actually learned a lot from these different sites, and they've been very good about sharing what their experiences have been, and so I kind of regularly follow some of these to see what new comes up. But just do a search out there, and see what you find. Okay, that's enough. It's gone on long enough. Fortunately, this camera dies after 20 minutes, so can't overdo that. I have some more points, add some things onto it, come back a little, a little later and cover some more items, hopefully not be quite so long and drag on with this. So that'll do it for this time, and I thank you for watching.